from an attacking sense, if they do put Salah back in, is he under pressure to deliver now?
He's desperate to still be the main man, and it's amazing his fall from grace when you look at where he was at this time last season to where he is now.
Talk about knee-jerk. I mean, is that true? I mean, has he fallen from grace, and are Liverpool really back?
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say fall from grace, but there's definitely pressure on him. But he's proven time and time again he can do it. And, this might just be this little kick up the backside as if he needed one to say that actually, and I think the bigger picture here is nobody's undroppable.
We'll only know if Liverpool are back after this game.
I look at Sean Dyche now, and with the squad he's got, I think there's a great opportunity to show that he's more than what people just try to throw at him.
It's very much a firefighting job now. I guess in some ways you praise Evangelos Marinakis for reacting so quickly and righting the wrong of appointing Postecoglou in the first place.
It's just a very short-term job with an owner like that.
Hello, it's Premier League All Access with me, Sam Matterface, and talkSPORT's Alex Crook, Benfica left back extraordinaire. $1 Million Minto is here as well. Gentlemen, what a good week in the Champions League for the English club. Well, I mean, Tottenham got a draw away in Monaco, but everybody else had a pretty good time. Benfica lost, though, Scott, but it was to Newcastle, so we were kind of on their side, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and actually Benfica did quite well in the first half, but then Newcastle showed exactly what the Premier League is all about and showed their power in the second. But they gave a good fist of it, Jose's side, in the first half. But yeah, I need them to get a point. They haven't got a point yet.
But at least they look better than Ajax, mate. Ajax were absolutely guffed.
Yeah,
Crook and I went to Stamford Bridge on Wednesday night. I'm in the hotel just down the road from Chelsea, actually, and you can probably hear people making coffees in the background. I think they're trying to make some black coffees for the Ajax hangover because they got absolutely schooled by a bunch of teenagers on Wednesday night. Crook and I were there, and at half-time, Crook just went to me, "They're rubbish, aren't they?"
I think in the end they were probably quite relieved to only lose 5-1, to be honest. They were so poor. And it's sad to see, former winners, once great institution of European football, but at least Wout Weghorst in the first half gave us plenty of entertainment.
He certainly gave us a lot to talk about, didn't he? When did he grow his hair out, by the way? It's a new look. It works for him. I like it. And to, the whole sort of workhorse, Weghorst, battle ram sort of, he lent into that narrative, didn't he? I mean, he got a good kick on the head. No one was quite willing to say whether they felt that Tosin may have just let that heavy leg fall or not. But certainly there was a bit of a running battle going on between him and the Chelsea defence and Moises Caicedo as well. But I think it's difficult to judge Chelsea, Scott, isn't it, after that performance?
Yeah, but I mean, all Chelsea can do is win the games. Again, I was at the Chelsea-Benfica game, and Benfica were unlucky really there to not come away with something. But Chelsea found a way to get all 3 points. I actually probably think is it their best performance? But I didn't think they played that badly against Bayern Munich. They just sort of gave away silly goals, really, and were a little bit naive against a top side. And we saw, I'll keep on saying it on a regular basis, it's very difficult to judge this Champions League after what happened last year with PSG. Not suggesting Chelsea will go on and do it at PSG, but teams develop as they go on. And we know this Chelsea side is still developing almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think what's great is that a lot of young players, some have been bought, some have come through the Cobham Academy, displayed brilliant talent and a desire to go and take the game to Ajax and finish the job off. Esteval was excellent in the second half. Tyreek George was very good, I thought, when he came off the bench as well. Mark Guiu got a goal, which was good for him and his confidence. And I thought that, Achimpong coming into the back line, playing alongside Chalobah and Reggie Walsh coming off the bench sort of gives a sort of feather in the cap to the Cobham Academy as well. The big headline, though, probably belongs to Liverpool, Crook. Winners and coming from behind in Frankfurt, but losing Isaac to injury, and Arne Slot wasn't happy about it.
No, and I guess Newcastle fans will say this is karma for doing what he did in the summer to force a move. I was listening to the Sports Bar on my way back from Chelsea last night, and the boys there, Jamie O'Hara and Dean Saunders, were asking the question, what was he doing for 3 months over the course of the summer to be so unfit? Because this is not like the old days when you go off on holiday, you come back 5 stone heavier. Most footballers have their own sort of pre-season plan. They have their own personal trainers who accompany them on holidays. So the fact he's still struggling, I think, is a bit of a concern. And I guess it takes away what would have been a really intriguing question when the team news came out of Brentford on Saturday night. Would Mo Salah get his place back? Because probably if Isak was fully fit, the answer would be no, because how do you change a team that has scored 5 goals?
Yeah, Mo Salah left on the bench for the Champions League game. Arsenal flexed their muscles against Atletico. Spurs drew 0-0 with Monaco. That's it for the midweek action. Should we get into the Premier League now? And we will start at the GTEC because our live game is Saturday night this week, 8 o'clock, Brentford against Liverpool. One of 2 live games this weekend on talkSPORT. Friday night, we've got Leeds against West Ham for you as well. Looking forward to that one at Ellen Road under the lights. Liverpool stopped the rot in midweek with that win against Frankfurt. Not great having to go to the bus stop in Hounslow next, though, and face a Brentford team that are on a high after Monday night's thumping win over West Ham, Scott.
Yeah, they dominated, didn't they, West Ham, and the scoreline and the stats flatter West Ham, not Keith's side. And I spoke to him in the morning, and he was actually really looking forward to it. He feels they're in a good place right now. He feels they could even have more points than what they had. But that performance, I think, would have given them a lot of confidence. And actually, I know Liverpool had it's a really good performance and a really good win, getting back to winning ways, but I've spoken about the sort of travelling away and how that can affect the patterns. You know, Keith would be a bang up for this. And if there's any Liverpool player in any way whatsoever who's not up for this physically and mentally, then they will get found out. So it will be interesting to see whether Arne Slot tries to pick a similar side because the performance was so good, or whether he does try and say, well, look, I've rested, in inverted commas, a few players. They should be fresh for this game because physically this is going to be a completely different game to Frankfurt.
A quote after the game in midweek was really interesting. When you play football, you train players to play one game a week, but when you play for Liverpool, you have to play every 3 days. He said about Isak, he was 100% fit when he came back from international duty. The first time that we play him twice and he breaks down, it's frustrating. We hope it's not going to be something too big because that will really set him back. I thought it was quite fascinating with all of the managers this week, the way they rotated their squads. And I think some of them have really sort of lent into what happened last season, where we were seeing so many injuries, so many disruptions, so many problems, Crook, that actually they've decided to get that in early rather than take risks when they really need to win games further down the line.
It's funny though, isn't it? I don't remember Arne Slot moaning about playing every 3 days last season when Liverpool was sweeping all before them to the Premier League title. Amazing how the narrative changed.
He wasn't moaning. He was just a little bit frustrated that his 190,000 million striker has picked up an injury the minute after he's played him twice in 1 week. And you can understand that, right? You can understand that frustration.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, this partly self-inflicted when it comes to Alexander Isak. I thought the more interesting thing he said last night was that Frankfurt played exactly how Liverpool wanted them to. Whereas obviously Manchester United didn't at the weekend, and you can bet your life that Keith Andrews is not going to have a game plan that will suit Liverpool. So I do think in many ways this is going to be a much more difficult test. We're going to see a very direct approach from Brentford. They're going to try and exploit the weaknesses that were still there in the first half in Germany last night in Liverpool's defence, with the likes of Thiago, who's in blistering form. So we'll only know if Liverpool are back, as Joe Shannon said in commentary last night after this game.
Coyote, long throws, the catapults, they get such distance on them. Are Konate and Van Dijk prepared, Scott Minto?
Yeah, I think so. And I think even though Van Dijk had a poor game against United, I think it was really important for Liverpool that Konate had probably his best game so far this season, because he's been really poor. We know that Van Dijk will be really good, and I think it was just a poor game. But boy, I mean, if they're not practicing it, well, they've only got a couple of days, isn't it? But if they're going to do anything on the grass, it is probably going to be those long throws and how to basically win the second balls, because it's not always about just heading away and getting a 30-yard header. It's about winning those second balls. So, look, Keith has practiced on this. I think he's almost disappointed. There seems to be the trend now in the Premier League where many clubs are just getting the ball in the box, because it's probably the worst possible time for him to become a first-time manager, in the sense that you've got the 3 promoted teams who are doing really well for the first time in 3 seasons. A lot of teams playing this sort of set piece way in the way that he would have done and try to be a little bit different. But the bottom line is you can still practice it on the training pitch. It's another thing actually dealing with it, on a match day, and they're very, very good at it. And they've been practicing since pre-season. So yeah, if Konate and Van Dijk and the others aren't up for it, then we'll find out.
They missed so many chances in the game against West Ham on Monday night. They could have won that game by considerably more goals. Igor Thiago had so many great chances. Damsgaard missed a really good chance. They were pummeling the ball into the box. West Ham were weak and apathetic. It was awful atmosphere inside the stadium, and that's nothing to do with the fans, by the way. I don't blame them. If you had to watch that every week, you wouldn't be staying till the end of the game either. It was a nothing performance by West Ham United, who are in real trouble, and we'll come on to them a little bit later. But they are very difficult to deal with going forward, and Liverpool will have to be robust. They're also dangerous, not just with the long balls, but on the counter-attack as well. They really break fast. And if Liverpool are vulnerable to anything, it is in transition when the fullbacks go really high and there are spaces down the side. From an attacking sense, if they do put Salah back in, is he under pressure to deliver now? Because they've won by 5-1 away from home without him in the team, Crook. And I'm sure it doesn't matter how old you are or how big your contract is. If you're used to being the main man, when that happens, you feel your ego's a little bit bruised.
I think you saw that even when he came on Wednesday night. There was an opportunity that he had, I think, to square the ball to Florian Wirtz, and he went for goal himself instead, missed the opportunity. And that's because he's desperate to get back on the goal trail. I think he's desperate to still be the main man. And it's amazing his fall from grace when you look at where he was at this time last season to where he is now. I'm sure he will get back to it, but Scott will tell you that when your game just starts to drop off that 10-15%, it becomes a mental battle as much as a battle about whether you've still got the ability or not.
I love this. Right. Okay. So it's really early in the morning here. I'm sitting in a hotel lobby. We've all done about 17 games this week, and we've been traveling up and down the country. And there's a little bit of tiredness and lethargy. Crook sounds a little bit like he's got a cold coming on or something like that. I obviously don't feel like I've slept that well, and I've got another game tonight and all that kind of stuff. But we're still not shying away from the fact that Liverpool are back after one game, and Mo Salah has fallen from grace. Scott, I mean, could we be generating any more headlines? I mean, talk about knee-jerk. I mean, is that true? I mean, has he fallen from grace, and are Liverpool really back?
By the way, I think Crookie's still recovering from the stag weekend he had. That's the reason why he's that sort of way.
Sleeping next to an infected Dean Ashton has taken its toll on me.
I'm so pleased you weren't sleeping next to me.
God, could you imagine? No, look, I agree with you. But it is modern day football. It's modern day society, isn't it? If you don't do it for a period of time, and not even a period of time, then suddenly you've fallen from grace. And I noticed when Crookie said that. But what I would say is he's right to say then they ask questions from a mental side, but he's proven time and time again he can do it. And this might just be this little kick up the backside, as if he needed one, to say that actually, and I think the bigger picture here is nobody's undroppable. And for the last 6-7 years, Mo Salah has been undroppable. And I think that's the important thing from Liverpool's point of view. I don't care how much money you've spent, and I know there's going to be pressure from above, even if Isak was fit to play him all the time. But you've got this amazing squad, and now it's down to you to find it. And all of them, in terms of the spreadsheet, should be worth exactly the same. Who are your best players? Who are going to gel better? And who's going to win you the games? And you have to say that Mo Salah, he's always been a player of moments, really. It's not like he's sort of dominated the game. And he's still had plenty of chances that he's missed this season, where last season he was scoring. I back him definitely to come back 100%, despite his age, despite what people are saying. And yeah, I wouldn't quite say fall from grace, but there's definitely pressure on him.
Yeah, but Crook loves this. Like he wrote off Florian Wirtz as well, and now he's playing really well. So is he like back up to Ballon d'Or status now, Crook, having scored or made the goal against Manchester United and then played probably his best game in a Liverpool shirt on Wednesday night?
I'm not sure I wrote off Florian Wirtz. Have you got the audio to back that up?
Yeah, come off it.
I think
How
what I
many
actually
times have
said was even Dennis Bergkamp, who's regarded as probably Arsenal's greatest ever player by a lot of their fans, even he took time to settle.
That was last week after the Man United game. You've been having a go at him because he hasn't settled in
I've not
properly.
actually.
Don't
Well, I did say, and
yes, you
Arne
have.
Slot took my advice. I said they needed to put Andy Robertson back into that back four to give him a bit more solidity. So you're welcome, Arne, if you listen to the podcast.
I didn't realise Arnie listens to the pods, Sam.
He does
You
listen to
listen to
talkSPORT, to be
talkSPORT?
fair. He does. And if you speak to him, he always says, talkSPORT. Yes, I listen. And he does. He listens every day because I think he listens because he wants to take the temperature of what people are saying, but also it's because he wants to get I mean, he's very good with his English anyway, but he was something about getting into football language, making sure he had all the football language, which I thought was quite good, really. He was very excited. When I first met him, he was like, talkSPORT, yes, this is great. And I was like, we'll take that. Was anyone recording it? We're going to use that. Brentford have beaten Villa. They've beaten Manchester United. They've drawn with Chelsea at home this season. Every chance they'll cause Liverpool problems. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, live on talkSPORT. Elsewhere at the top of the table, Arsenal take on Crystal Palace. Off the back of spanking Atletico 4-0 at the Emirates, the Gunners are absolutely purring at the moment. And, Crookmeister, even you were saying on Tuesday night, and I know it pains you to praise Arsenal. God, they're so good.
They were brilliant in that second half. The first half, they were in control without creating too many opportunities. But when they went up through the gears, that 15-minute spell, 13-minute spell as it was absolutely devastating. Obviously, needed the set piece to get the breakthrough goal. But I'm not going to criticise them for that because it's something they worked very hard at. And there's a reason why they score more set piece goals than everybody else. Gyökeres has obviously got a couple of goals, which will help his confidence. But again, defensively, just so resolute. This looks a difficult game on paper against Crystal Palace because Palace don't lose very often. But I'd be stunned if Arsenal don't pick up another 3 points because they are just in the groove at the moment. And actually speaking to people even at Liverpool, they are worried about how well Arsenal are playing at this moment in time.
I'm going to this game on Sunday, Arsenal Crystal Palace. We're doing Game Day Live from there. And that match follows another European game against Larnaca, which is live on talkSPORT 2 tonight for Crystal Palace. So it may well be that they're a little bit jaded after their European exploits, and Arsenal might be able to take advantage of that. But Scott, 2 goals for Victor Gyökeres, obviously ripped it up in the Portuguese league. He went 9 without a goal. To get those 2 on Tuesday night, what will it have done for his confidence? What will it have done for the team's confidence in him?
I think they're 2 very different questions there. Because I think he's been working very hard for the team, and the teammates, they don't really care who scores the goals. It's only the strikers. You can speak to Troy or Gabby or whoever. They want to be scoring, and they've been doing that all their lives. So in terms of from a teammate's point of view, as a left back, I don't really care who scores. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be the centre forward, just as long as we win the games. If you're talking about from a mentality and psychological point of view for a striker, they might lose. There's a lot of them, more so back in the day than now, but lose 5-1. If you scored, you're not going away totally unhappy. So he wants to justify his price tag, as simple as that. And strikers are judged on goals. But I thought Mikel Arteta was very clever when he said, I've told him that I want him to be that player where if he goes 6 or 7 games without a goal, you're still doing your stuff for the team. And ultimately, that's what's happening. And yes, Gyökeres needs to be scoring more goals, and I think that will help him a lot. But again, it's all about the team. And I think that's what we see from Arsenal right now. We see strength in depth in every position. We see a team ethic where defensively they're working hard from the front, and Gyökeres does that. And again, let's not forget that he did a bit of an Isak, didn't he? He did a bit of a Vissa at Sporting. So he's still trying to get up to speed from a physical point of view. He's still not there 100%. But I think from a psychological point of view, absolutely, it will help him out. 100%.
Yeah, I was fascinated actually because you and I had a conversation in a car. I was driving back from Port Vale. We were talking about his record in Portugal. John, if you remember this, and you said to me, I'm a little concerned that the last few times I saw him in the big games, he hadn't scored loads of goals in Portugal. The Benfica games, the Porto games. And I went back over the course of his whole career there. And actually, the last half of the matches, I think he played 9 matches against the other big members of the big 3, and he didn't score in any of the last 4 games, and then the one previous to that, the only goal he got was a penalty. But he actually started quite well. He scored 2 goals in a game against, I think it was against Benfica, and then he scored one against Porto as well. So, I mean, he has got it in him, I think. I think it's just about bringing it out.
Sam, he
Talk to me
also
about
scored in the Champions League a lot for Sporting as well.
he
So
did,
at
he
the
did, he
top
did, he
level,
did.
he's done it.
Talk to me a little bit about the Arsenal defence. I mean, I've been waxing lyrical about this for years. I've got this theory that if you look back over the course of the Premier League history, you'll look at the goals against column, and that will probably be a very good indicator as to who is going to be the champions of England. Arsenal's defenders have scored more goals than they've conceded, Crook, this season. That record that Chelsea have got of 15 in the Premier League campaign conceded when they won the title under Jose Mourinho back in the early 2000s is actually under threat from this Arsenal team, isn't it?
Yeah, especially considering they've already been to Old Trafford, they've already been to Anfield, they've already played Man City at home, so a lot of difficult fixtures have already been navigated. Their defensive solidity is incredible, and the 2 centre-backs, for me, the best combination in the league. Actually, watching the other night, Saliba's the one who gets all the plaudits, and he's the one who gets linked with moves to Real Madrid. I think Gabriel is exceptional, and I think Gabriel makes Saliba the player that he is. So that's a brilliant partnership. Obviously, Mikel Arteta tends to rotate the fullbacks a bit. He went with Lewis Skelly because I think he wanted him to do that sort of hybrid role where he was carrying the ball into midfield against Atletico. That worked really well for the second goal in particular. And they've got options, haven't they? It was often said they'd spent a lot more money on their back line than they had on forward players. But I think that unit defensively is going to be what sets them apart, because if you know you're not going to concede goals, don't half take the pressure off the players at the top end of the pitch. You score 1 goal away from home against Fulham, you know you've won the game.
Yeah, and look, the fact is that whether it's Saliba who makes Gabriel better or Gabriel makes Saliba, I actually believe it's a proper partnership and they make each other better. That combination really works for Arsenal. I think when Saliba was out a couple of seasons ago, Gabriel actually struggled with somebody else alongside him. Actually, when Mosquera has come in this season, he's done quite well in that position. Let's have a quick word on Villa against Manchester City. It's a real test of City's title credentials, given Villa's upturn in form. It's another big Sunday afternoon game, Scott Minto, and they need to win it, Manchester City, don't they? And that's not going to be easy against a Villa team that don't stop winning games at the moment.
Yeah, Villa found a way. I mean, it's an incredible goal at Spurs, wasn't it? But I watched that game a couple of days later because I wasn't able to watch it live, and I personally thought that Spurs were just as good as Villa. It was just that one bit of magic. I look at Manchester City now, and you were asked a question a couple of weeks ago by a certain Alex Crook. Do you want to change your mind about City? And yet look where they are right now. Second place, 3 points behind Arsenal. Goal difference, only 1 goal behind Arsenal as well. So, you're right about the defences, but it seems pretty basic math, but it's about getting the balance right between defence and attack. You'll also find the teams that have won the Premier League, generally speaking, have some of the best attacks as well. So Arsenal have that balance. They drew too many games last season. Manchester City are looking a little bit stronger in terms of not conceding on the transition, but they still, for me, need another month or two for me to say, right, actually, they are back to where they were. And if they can show that, if they can carry on those type and win these type of games against the Villa side that is resurgent now, then, they're very much in the mix, because not many people are talking about them at the moment.
Erling Haaland, another goal in midweek. He's got 65% of Manchester City's Premier League goals this season, comfortably more than anybody else in the league in terms of ratio for one player. Obviously, he cannot get injured, can he? Because if he does, then I wonder whether or not they've got anybody to replace him. Well, they haven't got anyone to replace him because you can't replace Erling Haaland. But have they got the goals elsewhere to replace him? Have they got the system that can quickly readapt? Because for so long they played without one. Now they're playing with one and everything's geared towards him. All of a sudden, if he's not in the team, they might struggle a little bit, Crook.
Well, they won't win the league if Erling Haaland is injured for any prolonged period of time. I think we can say that quite confidently. And I think Pep Guardiola would want more players to weigh in. That was why I was so pleased that Bernardo Silva got the second goal, albeit having been left totally unmarked inside the penalty area the other night. But listen, Erling Haaland, we were writing him off at times last season because he wasn't quite the beast he was before. But my word, as he bounced back, he is absolutely unplayable at the moment.
Sorry, do you want to remember? Do you remember what you called him all those years ago. Do you remember that?
I stand by that. He's not the most technically gifted footballer, but he is just an absolute machine when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net.
I
What did
thought it
you
was the
say?
royal we there, Sam, for a second. I don't remember you saying it. I don't remember me saying anything like that.
I don't remember me saying it either. What was it you said? Did you say it was a donkey? Did you?
As I say, not the most technically gifted player that we've ever seen in the Premier League, but certainly
Wow.
the best goal scorer, probably.
Not that he ever changed his mind, by the way. And by the way, it's a sign of intelligence, Crook, to change your mind, even if you do it as often as you do. Right, okay, let's take a look at Nottingham Forest now. A week is a long time in football. This time last week, Ange Postecoglou was in the dugout. He's not anymore. Bournemouth against Forest is this Sunday. Now, we are recording this on Thursday morning prior to Forest's clash with Porto. First of all, let's just quickly talk about the appointment itself of Sean Dyche as the new manager of Nottingham Forest. The tweet unveiling him was pretty telling from Forest. A respected and experienced Premier League manager, Dyche brings the perfect blend of character, tactical acumen and proven achievement to guide the club through its next chapter. They went on. It was longer than the 39-word statement that they used to dismiss Ange Postecoglou. Having managed more than 330 Premier League matches in his career to date, Dyche has built teams defined by defensive organisation, resilience and strength from set pieces, qualities that align closely with the current squad's attributes and the club's footballing identity. So we're going to go back to the Nuno style then, Scott, yes?
Is there a bit of AI about that statement, by the way? A bit of AI about it, maybe.
I mean, it's just I feel for the Forest fans, although Ange never gave himself a chance. I saw enough on a playing point of view. I mean, even the weekend will tell you that they were far better side, especially in the first half, than Chelsea. But it lost the fans by then. So clearly, he wasn't going to last. I look at Sean Dyche now, and I'm really pleased with Sean Dyche. I mean, he's been saying for a long time that he had to do what he had to do at Everton, and the same at Burnley as well. And what he did at Burnley and Everton, by the way, was pretty sensational. Now, with the squad he's got, I think there's a great opportunity to show that he's more than what people just try to throw at him. Will he do that in the early days when Forest are in the bottom three right now? I'm not sure. Maybe the perfect, from a Premier League point of view, appointment. What does it mean about Europe? And has Marinakis, is he still wanting that Europa League trophy, or is he throwing it away? So I found it interesting, and I don't know, Crookie, was Roberto Mancini ever in with a shout? Was he spoken to?
I think conversations were had, but I think Sean Dyche was always the front runner. It was just a question of whether they would give him the sort of longer term commitment that he was looking for, or if they wanted to appoint him until the end of the season. I found it fascinating. We're talking about the statement. The wording in this statement, very different from when they appointed Postecoglou. They were talking about him being a proven winner and the fact they want to challenge for silverware. In this statement, they're focusing on Sean Dyche's ability to build a solid defensive unit. It's very much a firefighting job now, isn't it? And it's crazy. They've gone from Nuno with his defensive style. They wanted to change it. That's why they brought Ange in. And now actually they've realised, you know what? Our best form of of attack is defending deep and hitting on the counter-attack as we did last season. I guess in some ways you praise Evangelos Marinakis for reacting so quickly and righting the wrong of appointing Postecoglou in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think this is one of those scenarios where it's all going to change very quickly, right? Because if Dyche gets them very well organised, which he will do in the first couple of weeks that he's got the players, and they start putting results on the board, the mood will change within a blink of an eye. We're only in October, and they're quite far behind in terms of challenging for European places. They're worried more about what's going on behind them than they are on what's in front of them. But things can change so quickly in the Premier League. If they were to go on a run and put some serious results on the board, put 3 or 4 wins together in a row, all of a sudden it's a completely different season and the job becomes different again. They've got good enough players to be able to do that. They've got a wide enough and a big enough squad to be able to do that. I was talking to you about this the other day when James McAtee and Amari Hutchinson and Dylan Bakwa are all standing on the touchline in their civvies on Saturday because they can't even get in the match day squad because the squad is just far too big. If you can't get into the match day squad, nowadays when there's 20 players that are available to the manager on a match day. I mean, like, you've obviously got too many senior pros. You've got one or two injuries as well. So, like, the idea that they've recruited all of these players shows that they want to be serious about challenging Europe. They can still do that. Obviously, the Europa League phase goes on until January. They'll put points on the board in that as well, and they've got every chance of qualifying for the knockout stages. So, look, I think that the job at the moment is quickly stabilise, get them on the front foot. But after 3 or 4 games, if they've put points on the board, the job will change again. It's Marinakis. It will change every 5 minutes, won't it? I mean, and they can achieve stuff with the players that they've got because they've got Chris Wood, they've got Igor Jesus, who looks pretty lively up front. They've got Morgan Gibbs-White. They've got players that can create and score goals like Callum Hudson-Odoi. They've got fast wingers. They've got robust defenders. I've got high hopes for them, and I think it means something, Scott. Right, when you've got people there that really know and care about the club. I know we sort of go on about that, and sometimes that's a little bit sort of cliched, and then people hark too much to the romance of it. But Sean Dyche was a trainee at Nottingham Forest. Ian Wone and Steve Stone, very well-known Nottingham Forest people. Them being in the door helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're going to do a good job just because you've been attached to a club as a player. But actually, I 100% believe it does help when you've got that in your feeling. You've come through the ranks. You know, he's played under Brian Clough, and certainly he was the manager there. You have, it's not as if you don't try in other clubs, but you have that extra feeling. It hurts you even more. You work even harder to try and get it right. And look, you're right. Things can turn around pretty quickly. But then what does that mean then? Is the pressure then on Sean Dyche to say, well, okay, well, you've got us out the relegation zone. That's not so much of a problem. And now go and win the Europa League like I wanted Postecoglou to do that in the first place. And if he doesn't, gets knocked out in the quarterfinals, what does that mean for him then? So it's just a very short-term job with an owner like that. And yeah, it's interesting. One flip-flopper recognising about another flip-flop statement there, that he has gone one way and now back to the other. It's such a short-term thing, football, isn't it? Get out of the relegation zone first.
It is, and yeah, it's a bit like being a manager of Chelsea back in the day, isn't it? You know, you're never more than 3 defeats away from the sack. Bournemouth might try and capitalise on that, or it might be the wrong time for Bournemouth to go up against Nottingham Forest. 19-year-old Eli Junior Krupi scored 2 goals last week. He's got 3 Premier League goals now, and he looks like another talent that has been unearthed by that talent factory down on the South Coast, Crook.
Yeah, and he's someone who's been there a little while, and obviously they've had to be patient with him before actually unleashing him in the Premier League. But you're right, he looks a real find. And it is an area, actually, at the top end of the pitch, you know, for all of Evan Nilsson's qualities, he's never going to be a striker, I don't think, who scores 15, 20 goals a season in the Premier League. So the fact they've got an alternative option now is a real bonus. Unis Anal made his comeback for the development squad this week as well after a serious knee injury. So slowly but surely, Andoni Iraola is getting more options. I'd have been much more confident in Bournemouth going into this game if Ange was still the Forest manager. I think he would have absolutely played into their hands. But Sean Dyche is going to go there. He's going to try and spoil the game. He's going to have that low block. So I wouldn't be surprised now if this ends up in a draw and Bournemouth's little positive run of results comes to a halt.
Okay, let's round things off looking at the bottom of the table. 2 more huge games which could prove crucial come the end of the season. Friday night under the lights at Ellen Road. talkSPORT will be there. Leeds against West Ham. Feels absolutely massive, doesn't it, for both these 2 teams, Scott?
Yeah. West Ham. I mean, I watched that game on Monday, and actually Crookie texted me. He said, "You watching it?" I said, "I'm about 2 hours behind, so I haven't even started kickoff yet." But, you know, I had to watch it sort of knowing what was about to come, and it was a horror show from behind the sofa. Look, I like Nuno a lot, and we've just discussed him at Forest and the fantastic job he did. I think it shows that it's not just a magic wand, or you can click your fingers and come in and suddenly you can turn it around. Boy, does he have a job on his hands. I do question some of his selection, even putting the fullbacks the other way around. I understand the thinking behind it, but It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So I was surprised he did that, but he would have looked at that game and the analysis afterwards and said, we are in a relegation scrap. And I don't normally say that mid-October.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were absolutely appalling on Monday night. I think I said when the first goal went in that they'd been pathetic, and they had been. They'd hardly laid a glove on Brentford. Brentford had 15 shots in the first half of a game. I mean, that is absolutely ludicrous. West Ham were at home. I mean, it was probably the worst performance, not only of this Premier League season, but the worst performance I'd seen by a West Ham team for probably 10 years in the Premier League. I mean, you could argue that all of the performances that have left you with your jaw on the floor this season because they were so bad contained West Ham. The Sunderland 3-0 away from home, the Chelsea 5-1, and now the Brentford 2-0. I mean, I still can't believe, actually, when I was talking then, I was thinking, was it only 2-0? It felt like about 7, because they were so bad in the game. Why on earth is Nuno Espirito Santo playing Ollie Scholes, who's never, ever played at right back in his life, not even for the youth team, at right back instead of left back where he's always played? Why on earth is he not picking Callum Wilson when they need a goal in the game, when they could still get back into it at 1-0 down, even though they were absolutely guff? Why is he not picking James Ward-Prowse at all, even though he's created more Premier League chances for West Ham this season than any other player? It seems all a little bit odd, Crook. Is everything okay there?
Well, no, clearly it isn't okay there. And you can actually add the Tottenham performance into the list of horror shows that West Ham have produced this season. But it was a baffling lineup. I agree with Scott. I mean, the Callum Wilson one, you can only assume that he doesn't think he's got the leg in the Premier League anymore. And actually, if you've watched Callum play this season, and I'm one of his biggest fans over the course of his career, I think there is evidence to suggest that it was a sign the West Ham fans weren't particularly on board with at the time, and maybe they'll be proved right. But yeah, chucking in the young players, I think probably was Nuno trying to appease the supporters, because obviously there was that boycott and there were a lot of empty seats inside the stadium. But it all feels like a very unhappy ship, and this is a huge test now for West Ham. Was that performance a complete one-off under Nuno, or is that going to be par for the course? Because Leeds away from home is the type of game where you need to be picking up points if you're not seriously talking about dropping into the Championship.
And Leeds aren't great in attack, but West Ham will give them chances, and they will sense that this is an opportunity for them, Scott. Daniel Farke's side light in attack. He even admitted that himself after the window. But they've got a big chance to put 3 points on the board here.
Yeah, and as disappointing the loss was against Burnley, they were the better side, and actually they're not playing that badly. So I think it is interesting. I saw the question in the running order about would Leeds rather play at the London Stadium? Well, in a way, yes, but those fans up there at Ellen Road, they are like the proverbial 12th man. They're absolutely incredible, and they should smell something here, that they're playing up against the West Ham side that is completely lacking in confidence. So even if the team don't start off very well, stay behind them, because this West Ham team will collapse. I mean, you mentioned the Sunderland game, first game of the season. They didn't actually play badly first half, and then second half just completely collapsed. And that's what this West Ham side can do. So this is a great opportunity for Leeds. This is the perfect timing for them. That West Ham are massively under pressure. Leeds are playing at home against what is now one of their rivals down there, because West Ham are, until they're completely out of it, they've got to go for the throat. And yes, they're not particularly great going forward, but if they're very, very solid and just keep applying the pressure, getting balls in the box, which West Ham, Nuno still hasn't sorted out how defensively vulnerable they are, then unfortunately I do see Leeds winning this game.
Yeah, Ellen Road is a great place to play your football. It's complete chalk and cheese to the London Stadium. It's tight, it's compact, it's loud, it's intoxicating. Everything the London Stadium isn't. I don't think Leeds would want to go and play down at the London Stadium, because the game that I went to recently felt like it was back in COVID times. It was that quiet. There was apathy in the crowd. There was no sort of level of emotion and passion that you expect with Premier League football. You get that at Leeds. Sometimes, actually, it goes against them because the crowd react to losing a goal early or things aren't going well, and that crowd can turn, and that can be a problem for the Leeds United players, but they've got to be able to shoulder that burden. I think this is a real opportunity for them, especially the fact that West Ham have had such a quick turnaround, and they'll be expecting, I think, to get 3 points on the board. It's a proper night of football on Friday Night Live on talkSPORT. Wolves Burnley's a massive game as well for both, isn't it, Crook? Wolves still winless. I mean, this is absolutely it's a 6-pointer without a doubt. What does defeat do to Wolves if they lose here?
Well, it's a massive nail in the relegation coffin, even at this early stage, because we spoke about it on the pod on Monday. They are in danger of being cut adrift. And this has been coming for Wolves, because you can't keep selling your best players and replacing them with inferior quality and expect to win games in the Premier League. I do wonder if they don't get a positive result here, if suddenly the pressure really starts to mount on Vitor Pereira. I know that sounds ridiculous because they've only just given him a new 3-year contract, but they did the same with Gary O'Neill and pulled the trigger there. And I got a bit of stick for this on social media, and actually I only remembered saying it when someone quote tweeted it the other day. This dressing room have a habit of turning it around when a manager first arrived, and they buy into his philosophies, and he's having pints with the fans in the pub. And then when they've decided, now, do you know what, we don't fancy this guy anymore, performances dip, and they get fired. It's like a never-ending cycle at Wolves, and probably not since Nuno has any manager been able to go in there and lay the foundations for long-term success. That's partly because of the ownership, but I think it's also a dressing room problem.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it does very much look like that. And I know that you've spoken to people that are very much involved in Wolverhampton Wanderers, and that's where that information and that thought process has come from. However, the dressing room has turned over so many different personnel that it's not the same dressing room as the one that Gary O'Neill inherited. It's not the same dressing room that led to the downfall of Gary O'Neill, because there's been so many massive changes. So the amount of personnel, surely, I mean, some of these players are lucky to be playing in the Premier League. They've been plucked from pretty much obscurity to get there. Talking of which, Jurgen Strand Larsen, when he was first signed, was signed on loan from Celta Vigo. A brilliant backstory, wonderful backstory with him. But he hasn't scored a Premier League goal since all of the noise around him going to Newcastle started to centre. Scott Minto, has his head been turned, and has that affected his performances?
I haven't scored a goal either since, about 2000. No, I don't think so.
Larsen's had more new contracts than he scored goals, hasn't he, in the last 6 months?
Sometimes you can be lucky rather than really good, and it's all about timing. And the new contract, definitely, the fact that Wolves paid 25 million and they still turned down 50 million within a
2 new contracts he's had. Two new contracts.
Look, I'm not going to give him stick for that. That's down to the club. I mean, what I would say, just from a Vitor Pereira point of view, Wolves can't keep circling the drain because there's only one result that's going to happen. And
where's Darren Lewis?
This is a manager who I really like. I think he's a really good coach. I was there at the Spurs game. He turned things around at half time, and they should have gone on to have won the game. There's only so much he can do. And I'm pretty sure the owners do that. Although at some point at Christmas time, if they are right down there, maybe they feel that's the only thing they have to do. I don't know. Domenico Tetti being the director of football there, I think he played a big part in giving him the contract. You've got a lot of players who are top players who have gone, and you've got unproven Premier League players who have come in. I still, when I've seen them play, they play fine. But if you don't score goals, you're going to get relegated. And Strand Larsen, I don't want to talk about his contracts, but he needs to stop looking at them, stop looking at his bank account, and actually get out there and score goals, because boy, do they need him right now.
I don't know what he's been doing. I don't know whether the contract is anything to do with his change in form, but I'll tell you this. When he was a kid, he used to get his dad to go and open up the school before everybody else arrived in order to work hard, because he was determined to become a professional footballer, and he had to work on certain elements of his game, and he used to go in every single morning to do extra training so that he could get to a level that he can compete with the very top players in his area and then go on and obviously be a professional. This is a guy that doesn't give up. This is a guy that has worked hard over his whole career to prove people wrong. So I'm going to say that he's going for a bad spell. The team aren't playing particularly well, and that eventually he will come good. Not sure about Burnley coming good. If you look at the data, they are massively behind whenever. I mean, they beat Leeds last week, but behind on possession, behind on shots, XG, etc., etc. Going to be very difficult for them if they don't get 3 points here, but they may well do it. I think they probably have to have a go a little bit more, but we'll see what happens when they take on Wolves this weekend. It's another pivotal week at the bottom of the table, as we told you it would be before the international break. This month and the beginning of next month is going to be absolutely vital to see who ends up in the relegation zone, because they're all playing each other over the next few weeks, including Leeds versus West Ham, which is live Friday night, Talk Sport. Make sure you join us for that. It's an exclusive. Game Day Live takes you around the grounds with Scott Minto and Dashboard Dean Ashton on the Saturday at 1 o'clock with Adrian Durham. No, 12:30 this week because we've got an 8 o'clock kickoff, Brentford against Liverpool. And Game Day Live from 1:30. I'll be with Aaron Lennon, Perry Groves, Mickey Gray and Alex Crook as all the goals go in from around the Premier League. It's a bumper day of action and we can't wait for it. Scotty, $1 Million Minto, thank you very much.
Pleasure, mate.
Flip Flopper, thank you very much.
No problem.
And we'll see you on Monday to review all of the action. Thank you very much for listening to Premier League All Access.